All right, welcome. Today we are going to try and decode the source code of biology itself. We're diving into the molecules that literally define our health, our diseases, really what makes us tick. And it all comes down to two things, proteins and the amino acids they're built from.
So let's just jump right in with a really big question. When you talk about being healthy or being sick, what are we really talking about? I mean, down at the molecular level. Well, the answer, it's hidden in the microscopic world of biochemistry. So let's dive in and take a look.
Okay, so the first thing you really got to get your head around is that biochemistry, it's not just some dry subject in a textbook. Think of it more like the language of medicine. You know, if medicine is all about healing, then biochemistry is the language that story is written in. It's how we unlock the secrets to what keeps us healthy and what makes us sick.
And what's so cool is that it's this fascinating two-way street, right? So studies in biochemistry, say on proteins, helped us figure out diseases like sickle cell anemia. But then, it works the other way too. Studying those very diseases gave us brand new insights back into biochemistry. It's this amazing feedback loop that just keeps pushing our medical knowledge forward.
And this brings us to a really critical point. If you set aside things like infections or environmental pollutants, most diseases, well, they have a biochemical basis. They happen because something, somewhere, has gone wrong at the tiniest level. We're talking about an abnormal gene, a protein that isn't working right, or a chemical reaction that's just gone haywire.
Now, before we get to the main characters in this whole biochemical story, we've got to talk about the stage where all the action happens. And in biology, that stage is water. But it is so much more than just a simple liquid. It's this incredible, unique solvent that makes all the chemistry of life even possible. Let's dig into why. So, the secret to water's superpower really comes down to its structure. It's what we call a dipole. Now, that's just a fancy way of saying it. It basically acts like a tiny little magnet. You've got the oxygen end with a slight negative charge, and then the two hydrogen ends have a slight positive charge. And believe it or not, this one simple fact has massive, profound consequences.
Right, so because of this magnet-like nature, water molecules can form this incredible dynamic network of what are called hydrogen bonds. And this network doesn't just dissolve other stuff so it can react. No, it's way more active than that. It actually shapes other molecules. It's pushing and pulling on protein chains, helping them fold into their exact functional shapes. So it's not just the stage, it's more like the director of the whole play.
And I mean, the difference is just dramatic. Look at this. Water has a super high dielectric constant. Again, a technical term, but it just means it's fantastic at keeping charged particles separated from each other. That's what lets them dissolve and interact. Now look at something like hexane, a non-polar solvent. It's terrible at this. The particles just clump right back together. Seriously, without this unique property of water, the building blocks of life would be totally useless.
Okay, so we've set the stage with water. Now it's time to meet our main characters, the amino acids. These are the absolute fundamental building blocks that are used to construct pretty much all of the most important molecules in our bodies.
So think about it. How many of these building blocks do you think life uses to create this insane diversity of proteins we see everywhere? You might guess thousands, maybe hundreds? Nope. The answer is just 20. It's amazing, right? From these 20 simple molecules, all the mind-boggling complexity of life is built.
And really, the best way to think about them is like an alphabet, a 20-letter alphabet. With just those 20 letters, biology can write a practically infinite number of words and sentences. And those words and sentences, those are the proteins. The specific sequence of these amino acid letters is what determines literally everything about a protein. Its shape, its job, its function, everything.
And just like the letters in our alphabet, each one of these 20 amino acids has its own unique personality. You've got simple ones, like glycine. Then you've got acidic ones, like aspartic acid, which carries a negative charge. And on the flip side, you have basic ones, like lysine, with a positive charge. It's this incredible diversity of properties that gives proteins their huge range of functions.
All right, so we have our 20 letters. What's the next logical step? Well, you link them together to form chains. And these chains, these are the proteins. They're the words of biology that are out there doing all the heavy lifting in our cells.
So how do you actually link these letters together? It happens through this really elegant and super efficient chemical reaction that forms something called a peptide bond. It's simple, really. You line up two amino acids, you form a bond between them, and poof, a molecule of water pops out. And this just happens over and over and over again to build these really long chains.
This long chain of amino acids, this has a name. We call it the primary structure of a protein.
It's the most fundamental level of its organization. It's just like the precise order of letters in a word. And trust me, that order is everything.
So, for example, you could have a sequence like lysine, leucine, tyrosine, glutamine. That specific order is what gives a protein its unique identity. And think about this. Just like changing one letter in a word can completely change its meaning, changing just one amino acid in that chain can completely alter a protein's function, sometimes with really dramatic consequences, which is exactly what happens in a disease like sickle cell anemia.
Okay, let's zoom back out and bring this back to the big picture. We've gone all the way from the broad language of biochemistry down to the individual letters that write it. So why is all this so important? Why is decoding this blueprint, knowing a protein's primary structure, such a huge deal for modern medicine?
Well, it's because everything starts with that sequence. If you want to understand what a protein does, or what its role is in health and disease, the very first thing you have to do is read its primary structure. It is, without a doubt, the absolute foundation of modern biology and medicine.
And once we can read that blueprint, it's like we unlock all these incredible new powers. We can pinpoint the exact molecular cause of genetic diseases. We can design drugs that target very specific proteins to treat conditions. We can understand the nitty-gritty details of how our bodies are supposed to work. We can even find new ways to detect diseases way earlier than ever before.
So we've gotten really good at reading this blueprint of life. But that, of course, leads to one final fascinating question. What happens when we move beyond just reading the blueprint and we actually start to rewrite it?